You don't notice it at first. It doesn't arrive with noise or drama or some grand announcement. It happens quietly, in the soft spaces between your everyday life. Maybe you're lying on your bed after a long day, your thoughts still tangled from everything you carried. Maybe you're scrolling on your phone, barely aware of the room around you. And then, you feel it. A gentle pressure. Small, rhythmic. Almost like a heartbeat, but outside your body. Your cat has climbed onto you without a sound. No demand, no urgency. Just presence. And before you can even react, they begin. One paw then the other. Pressing. Releasing. Pressing again. Slow. Intentional. Almost like they're trying to reach something deeper than your skin. At first it feels simple. Cute even. Something you've seen 100 times. Something people laugh about. Oh, they're making biscuits, someone once said. And you smiled because yeah, it kind of looks like that. But what if it's not just that? What if, in that quiet moment, something much more meaningful is happening? Because here's the truth most people never realize. When your cat does this, when they choose you as the place where they can let go like this, you're not just convenient. You're safe. Completely safe. And for a creature like a cat, that's everything. There's a story I once heard that stayed with me longer than I expected. It was about a woman named Sarah, someone who worked with animals every single day. She understood them. She respected their boundaries. But even she wasn't prepared for what it would feel like to earn the trust of one particular cat. His name was Machi. Machi wasn't easy. He had been returned to the shelter more than once, passed from home to home like something that didn't quite belong anywhere. By the time Sarah met him, he had already learned a quiet lesson about the world, that it wasn't always kind, and that trust came with consequences. So when she brought him home, he disappeared. Not physically, of course. He was still there. But he stayed under the bed, hidden in shadows, watching from a distance. Days turned into weeks and nothing changed. No affection. No curiosity. Just silence. And Sarah started to wonder something she didn't want to admit out loud. Maybe he would never choose her. Then one night everything shifted. There was no build-up. No warning. She was just sitting there, lost in a book, when she felt a weight settle onto her lap. Light. Careful. Almost hesitant. She froze. Machi. For the first time he had come to her. And then, he started to knead. Slowly. Gently. Like he was testing something invisible between them. Like he was asking a question without words. Can I trust you? And in that moment, Sarah didn't move. She didn't reach out. She didn't break the silence. She just stayed there letting him decide. Because something sacred was happening. What she didn't realize then, but would understand later, is that this wasn't just a random act of affection. It was a return. A memory written into his body from the very beginning of his life. Long before fear. Long before abandonment. Back when the world was warm. When kittens are born, they know almost nothing. They can't see clearly. They can't defend themselves. But they know one thing instinctively: how to knead. They press against their mother to bring comfort, to feel safe, to receive what they need to survive. It's one of the earliest feelings they ever experience. Warmth. Security. Belonging. And most of the time they grow out of it. Most of the time. Because sometimes, they don't forget. Sometimes, when a cat finds someone who makes them feel that same safety again, something deep inside them wakes up. Something old. Something pure. And they need. Not because they have to. But because, for a moment, they feel like that small, safe kitten again. And they only do that with someone they trust completely. That's what Machi was doing that night. He wasn't just sitting on Sarah's lap. He was stepping out of fear and into something he hadn't felt in a long time. Safety. And he chose her to feel it with. Think about that for a second. Out of everyone. Out of every possibility. A creature that has every instinct to stay guarded, to stay distant, decides. You are the one place where I can let go. That's not casual affection. That's a decision. And if your cat does this to you, really does it, not just a quick, distracted motion but a long, slow, almost dreamlike rhythm, then you've been chosen in a way that most people never fully understand. You might notice little details when it happens. The way their eyes soften, half closed, like they're somewhere else entirely. The quiet vibration of their purring, steady and deep. Sometimes even the way they lean into you, as if your presence is something they want to sink into. They're not just touching you. They're trusting you. Some cats even take it further. They'll knead, then curl up exactly where their paws were, like they've marked that spot as theirs, or maybe as yours together. A shared space. A shared feeling. And yes, they might need blankets, pillows, soft corners of the world that remind them of comfort. But it's not the same. Because objects don't respond. Objects don't feel. You do. And when they choose you instead of those things, when they climb onto you and begin that quiet, rhythmic motion, it becomes something more than instinct. It becomes connection. A kind of silent language that doesn't need translation. You might not hear it, but it says everything. I trust you. I feel safe with you. I choose you. And the truth is, not everyone gets to hear that. Because cats don't give that part of themselves away easily. They don't fake it. They don't perform it. It comes from somewhere real, somewhere unguarded. Which is why, when it happens, it matters. More than most people ever realize. And if you've ever had that moment, where your cat settles onto you, begins that slow, steady kneading, and everything else fades into the background for just a second, then you've already felt it. That quiet, almost invisible bond. The kind that isn't loud, but lasts. But here's the thing most people miss. As powerful as this is, as deeply meaningful as it feels, it's only the beginning. Because what your cat does next, the way they start to communicate with you, not through touch but through sound, that's where things get even more extraordinary. And chances are, they've already been talking to you this entire time. You just didn't realize what they were really saying. You start to notice it in moments you almost ignore. A sound in the hallway when you walk into the kitchen. A soft call from somewhere behind you when you close a door. A little voice that doesn't quite feel like noise, but doesn't quite feel like words either. At first you assume it's simple. Hunger. Attention. Routine things. A cat wanting something from you the way cats always do. But then something strange begins to happen. The sound changes. Not once. Not randomly. But in a way that feels intentional. Almost like it's learning you. And suddenly you begin to wonder if what you're hearing is not just a meow, but something closer to a conversation. Because your cat doesn't sound the same to everyone. They never do. There's something deeply personal about the way a cat speaks to its chosen human. Something that doesn't show up when they're alone, or when they're watching the world from a distance. It only appears in that shared space between you and them, the space where trust slowly builds itself without either of you ever saying it out loud. There's a kind of cat that greets you differently every single time you return home. Not just a sound of recognition, but something warmer, softer. Like relief disguised as a voice. It's not loud. It doesn't demand. It simply arrives, as if the moment you step through the door, something inside them finally settles. And if you listen closely enough, you'll notice something even more curious. They don't use that same sound for anyone else. Not your family. Not your friends. Not the world passing through your home. Just you. It's as if, somewhere along the way, your cat decided that you don't just deserve a response. You deserve a language. There was a man named Oliver who lived in a busy household, surrounded by noise, movement, and constant presence. People came and went. Doors opened and closed. Voices filled every corner of the house. But Oliver's cat didn't treat everyone the same. With the teenage boy, the cat was quick. Sharp little sounds. Short bursts of attention-seeking energy, like tapping a shoulder and running away. With the mother, the voice changed again. Softer. Longer. Almost musical, like a gentle request that didn't want to disturb the calm of the room. But with the father, something entirely different appeared. A pattern. Not just one sound, but a sequence. A rhythm that repeated and shifted, as if the cat was building sentences out of emotion instead of words. He would look at him, make a sound, pause, wait, and then respond again, adjusting every time depending on what came back. It wasn't random. It was interaction. And that's the part that stays with people the most when they realize it. Because somewhere along the way the cat stopped just reacting, and started participating. Not in the human world exactly. Not fully. But close enough that it feels like a bridge between two entirely different ways of existing. You speak. They answer. You pause. They continue. As if the rhythm of conversation itself has become something shared between species. And maybe the most unsettling part is how natural it starts to feel. You don't question it after a while. You just understand it, like it has always been there. Like it was waiting for you to notice. Scientists have spent years trying to make sense of this, but the truth is not hidden in complicated explanations. It's hidden in something much simpler. Cats don't use their voices the same way in the wild. Out there, among their own kind, silence is enough. Gestures, movement, distance. These are their languages. But when they enter our world, something changes. They discover that humans don't read silence the same way. Humans need sound. So cats adapt. Not instantly. Not consciously in the way we think of decisions. But gradually, through repetition, response, and time. They begin to shape their voices around you. Around how you react. Around what you notice. Around what you ignore. And slowly, something remarkable forms between you. A shared system of meaning that didn't exist before you met. It's not just communication. It's evolution happening inside a relationship. And what makes it even more personal is this. No two versions are the same. Your cat's voice with you will never fully match their voice with someone else. Even if the household is full of people, even if they interact with everyone, there is always one person who becomes the center of their vocal world. The one they speak to most. The one they try to be understood by. The one they return to again and again even when nothing is being asked. And that changes everything. Because suddenly, those little sounds you once dismissed as random start to feel different. A soft chirp when you enter the room. A low murmur when you sit down. A repeating call when they follow you from place to place like they're trying to stay within your orbit. It starts to feel less like noise, and more like presence. Like they're saying, I see you, in a language only the two of you share. And the more you respond, the more that language grows. Not in complexity that you can measure, but in intimacy that you can feel. There are even moments when it seems like they wait for you. They make a sound, then pause. Not leaving. Not walking away. Just waiting. As if your response is part of the meaning. As if the conversation isn't complete until you join it. And when you do, something subtle happens in their expression. A slight shift in posture. A small relaxation. Like something inside them has clicked into place. You didn't just answer them. You were understood. And maybe that's what makes it so powerful. Because in a world where so much feels loud, rushed, and disconnected, there is something strangely grounding about a creature that has chosen to learn you this closely. To shape its voice around your presence. To speak in a way only you can fully recognize. But just when you start to think this might be the deepest form of connection a cat can offer, there's another moment waiting quietly beneath it all. A moment that doesn't use sound at all. A moment that doesn't ask for attention, but reveals something even more fragile. Because sometimes the most honest thing a cat can do is not speak or follow or touch, but simply show you something they would never show the world. And when that happens, there is no language at all. Only trust. And it arrives in the most unexpected form. There are moments with your cat when everything feels completely ordinary, until it isn't. You're sitting on the couch, or lying in bed, or maybe just resting for a few quiet seconds between everything you're supposed to be doing. The room is calm. The world feels far away. And then your cat walks in. Not in a rushed way. Not with urgency. But with intention. They pause near you like they're making a decision you're not part of yet. Their eyes meet yours for just a moment, and then something unexpected happens. They turn. Slowly. Carefully. And they let themselves fall. Right there in front of you. On their back. Completely exposed. In that single moment, something changes in the atmosphere of the room. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it's there. A shift from everyday companionship into something far more delicate. Because what you're seeing isn't just a comfortable position or a playful stretch. It's vulnerability. Pure, unfiltered vulnerability. And in the world of cats, vulnerability is never accidental. A cat's body is built for survival. Every instinct they have is designed around awareness, control, and protection. Even when they sleep, part of them stays alert. Even when they relax, they remain ready to move, to escape, to disappear if needed. So when a cat turns over and exposes their belly, they are doing something that goes against everything nature teaches them. They are choosing trust over caution. And they are choosing you as the reason they feel safe enough to do it. At first, many people misunderstand this moment. They think it's an invitation, a request, something to respond to physically. They reach out, expecting affection in return. But the truth is quieter than that. Not every belly exposed is asking to be touched. Some are simply saying, I trust you enough to not protect myself right now. That's it. No expectation. No demand. Just presence. There's something deeply human about that kind of silence. A silence that doesn't ask anything from you, but still manages to say everything. There was a woman named Jennifer who once adopted a cat named Shadow. He had come from a difficult past, one that left him cautious about everything and everyone. For months after arriving in her home, he stayed distant. Watching. Measuring. Never fully relaxing even when the house was quiet and safe. Jennifer didn't rush him. She didn't try to force connection. She simply existed near him, letting time do what words couldn't. And then one afternoon something shifted. Shadow walked into the room where she was sitting. He didn't hesitate. Didn't look around. Didn't retreat. He just lay down and rolled onto his back. Jennifer said later that she didn't move for several seconds. Not because she didn't know what to do, but because she understood something important in that moment. If she broke the silence too quickly, she might break the trust inside it. So she stayed still. And shadow stayed there too. No fear. No tension. Just a shared space where nothing had to be earned in that moment except presence. That's what makes this behavior so rare. It doesn't happen because you feed them, or because you play with them, or because you exist in the same space every day. It happens when something deeper settles between you. A feeling that says, I don't have to protect myself around you anymore. And that feeling doesn't come easily. But when it does, it changes everything. Because once a cat shows you that level of openness, they don't just do it randomly. They begin to choose you in other ways too. Ways that are quieter but just as meaningful. Like following you from room to room. Not out of need. Not out of habit. But out of something closer to attachment. You notice it first in small ways. The soft sound of paws behind you when you get up. The feeling of being watched, not in a heavy or uncomfortable way but in a steady, constant way that never quite disappears. You move from the kitchen to the hallway, and they are there. You sit down, and they sit nearby. You close a door, and a small presence waits on the other side. It can feel almost amusing at first. Like a game. Like curiosity. But over time it becomes something else. A pattern. A presence that doesn't want distance. Because to them, being near you isn't just comfort. It's security. Cats are often described as independent creatures, and in many ways they are. They can spend hours alone, resting, observing, existing without needing constant interaction. But independence does not mean absence of attachment. In fact, when a cat chooses to stay close to someone consistently, it means that person has become part of their internal sense of safety. Not just someone who feeds them. Not just someone who lives with them. But someone whose presence makes the world feel predictable. And that is why the shadowing behavior matters so much. It isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't demand attention from anyone else. It simply continues. Room after room. Moment after moment. Like a quiet promise that says, I'm here because you are here. And the more you notice it, the more you begin to realize something surprising. They're not just following your movements. They're tracking your life. Learning your patterns. Your habits. Your rhythms. As if your existence has become something worth studying closely, not out of curiosity alone, but out of connection. And then there are moments where they do something even more subtle. They arrive before you do. You walk into a room, and they're already there waiting, as if they knew. As if your presence is no longer something they follow, but something they anticipate. And in those moments, it becomes harder and harder to believe that this is just instinct. Because it feels like understanding. Not the kind spoken in words, but the kind felt in shared silence. And just when you think that this closeness, this quiet companionship, might be the deepest expression of love a cat can offer, there is still one more thing left. Something that doesn't involve presence, or silence, or even trust in the way we usually understand it. It involves something far more deliberate. Something that feels, at first, almost strange, but carries a meaning that runs deeper than anything else they do. Because sometimes a cat doesn't just choose you with their body. They choose you with what they give you. And when that happens, you realize their love was never just about staying close. It was about caring for you in the only way they know how. Even if it means giving you something you never expected.